Right, what's good, people? So, from the last video, BTC has indeed swept those equal lows I've been discussing. It's pushed up 4% since then. Pretty nice move so far. We're seeing that gold to BTC ratio chart also performing quite well. We're going to cover that in a bit. But, before I do that, please like, subscribe to the video, of course. And if anyone's wondering why I'm wearing a hat like every video, it's because I got a shocking haircut going to a new barber. And I'm just sort of having to weather the storm now. I'm in the awkward phase, as they say. So just wanted to put that one to bed. But yeah, so we're going to cover some stuff on BTC. We're going to cover some stuff on gold, the ratio chart. ETH not going to really look at too much. We'll just briefly cover it. And also going to cover some key alt setups I'm watching at the moment. But other than that, let's jump into it, yeah? So BTC first up. We can see those equal lows down here swept at 106K, 107K, I should say. 107.3. That's what we were looking at last time. Now it swept it. It really didn't push up too much. It sort of failed to show momentum. It came back down. It didn't sweep the lows that it put in at 106.5 before pushing up again. So now it's sort of doing this weird grinding upwards price action, but I actually have a couple of levels I've mapped out where I think look pretty good here. Before I do that though, like we know this chart I was looking at in the last video, the weekly trend at the weekly range highs. Now it was trading under that before, but you can see it's starting to look a lot more constructive. We're just sort of, it's still a few days to the close, but we're just hovering above that level. And maybe if we close it like this, there's just yet another wick into this level that cannot close below it, which is a bullish sign. So now, what are these green levels I'm discussing? This is anchored VWAP. So you can get that by going over to the projection tab, which is over here on the left-hand side. Get it free in TradingView. It's just a tool. It's not an indicator, so you can add as many as you need. Down here under volume-based. Now, what I have been doing is anchoring it from key swing points. So this was a key swing low down here. We had it 74K. If I actually zoom in onto the H1, which I've already done, and anchored it to the exact bottom, you can see the respect it's had on the way up. We had this bounce at around 98K, which was pretty much the bottom of that run, that consolidation before pushing up to the new highs. And what I'm pretty much doing here is also anchoring one from all-time high up here. So it works really well from swing points, and you can kind of see like who's in control, the buyers or the sellers with this. So you can see from 74K, we haven't closed below it really. We did over here, and there's a bit of cause for concern on that liquidation puke, the sort of resulting move after that. But you can see the retest here, and also the actual liquidation candle were bought up. So this means buyers are in control from the 74K low. So if we go down to the 4 hour, you can see where I've anchored it from the top up here at all-time high. When we had that big pump the other day that pushed up to 113K, where did it reject? Straight into the anchored VWAP. So very handy to anchor from key swing points. You can do it from anywhere. If we go back to the daily for a sec, the world's your oyster. The world's your oyster. So here's quite a nice swing point down here we could mark one from. You can also change the settings in here. So you can have open, close, high-low close. It really depends how you use it. I can cover some more stuff on that in a bit. Now we can see from that key lows I've anchored it from down here. Nice retest at 105K before pushing up. Another nice retest up at 113K before pushing up. Then we had the chop in between. So it was kind of, buyers and sellers just sort of exchanging back and forth. But we can see just leaving that level up there, what happened? Well, it also lines up with that wick up we had the other day at 113K. So very powerful as dynamic support resistance levels. And you can use it as a full trending strategy. We'll probably cover that later in some other videos. But for now, I'm just using it as my barometer, my line in the sand. So if I actually get rid of that one for the minute, we can leave it there. Why not? So if we go back to the H4, we can see our anchored VWAP from all-time high up here where price rejected. We can also see our one from the 98K low over here. We can see that one from the 74K low down here. Now you can see once we actually got above it, we gave it a very nice retest. We pushed up, came back down for a round of retest again, found support at that level, pushed up, came into the anchored VWAP from all-time high, rejected, came back down to the anchored VWAP from 74K, found the bottom. So what I think is going to happen here is potentially we're just going to bracket between these 2 points. Pretty much up here between these 2 points, we can actually just get rid of the top one, have the all-time high for now, because this is one I've been discussing in the Miles High Club. Link in the description, you want to check that out, our Discord group. But these are the 2 points I'm looking for. So pretty much between 107.6, give or take, this is not an exact line in the sand. You just look for, it sort of tells you where to trade, but not when to trade. So you're getting your sort of dynamic levels to trade around, then it's up to you to find entry triggers around them. So we can see that push off the bottom here, and we can see the bracketing between these 2 levels. So all I'm really looking for at the moment is potentially come up, sweep that again, come down, maybe we bracket between here for a while. There's nothing to say we can't just bracket between these 2 points and catch very nice shorts at the top and very nice longs at the bottom. And this can be used for a fairly decent strategy. Now, I'm not using it in isolation. I'll use it with, key POIs and stuff. If I actually get the box tool up, I can see there's like a pretty clear line in the sand over here. So if we actually draw this, a very nice support resistance level. We had support over here, resistance again. and you know, so on and so forth. Now it lines up at that level too, so that goes all the way up to 113k. So I think, you know, between the equal low sweep there at 107 and up to 113, we could just see that rotation in effect. And I think that's, you know, a perfectly fine trading environment. Also perfectly acceptable and sort of to be expected after having the biggest liquidation event in history, which we've been discussing a bit. We can't expect price to just sort of go out without any sort of big catalyst. It's going to chop for a while, in my opinion. So nice trades to be taken there. You can also sync it up with alt setups. You know, if price starts rejecting this VWAP up the top at 112, 113k, you can sync it with shorts across alts as well, which look weak compared to BTC. And you can use BTC pair charts and stuff for that. You know, ETH BTC, that's a pair chart, ratio chart. We discussed it before. You guys know what I'm talking about. Now, what we still have down here at 106k is those other equal lows. Now, if I actually just get rid of everything for a second, you can actually see we have those equal lows over here at 106k, but we also have these relative equal lows now between these 2 points. So this makes for a nice liquidity pocket. So I do think potentially we come down, we could maybe run that VWAP. I'm just going to get that VWAP back. We can maybe run that VWAP down here and sweep into that level before reclaiming it and pushing up again. Once again, this is why I think it makes for a nice sort of bracketing, sort of ranging type environment. But yeah, I really like this now. I'm just going to make this a different color. Make this a hearty blue. How about that? Blue is a nice color, isn't it? You know, a potential sweep of those levels, those, you know, stacked equal lows down here into the other equal lows. So anywhere between, let's say, 106.6 down to 106 flat, I think makes for a good sweep level if we can get down there. Now, it's getting a bit noisy here, but, you know, that is the sort of ranging bracketing scenario. If I actually get rid of all these drawings for a sec, we switch to the H4 chart, we can see a pretty clear level up here at around 111k. This extends all the way back to the left side of the chart. So I can actually go to a higher time frame. Let's just say the daily. We can mark that up properly. Let's just say it's this box in here. So around 111k, you can see it's like a pretty good pivot level. Price retesting from above and below. It's not really support resistance, it's more of a pivot. So it's just having constant reaction back and forth. Now we are pushing up to that level, but I do think if we start closing some 4-hour candles up there, maybe even, you know, you want to wait for the daily candle. I think we start getting above this pivot level at 111, 112k, give or take, and start accepting above there. So that means a couple of closes above, price starts trading up. Maybe the market tries to push price down, it gets bought back up, which gives us a nice deviation there. Bit of confirmation of strength as it gets back above that level. I think potentially we could see the end of that bracketing that I'm talking about, and maybe we actually start pushing back up. And where I'll be looking for is probably taking out these highs over here. Potentially these highs at 116k. This supply cluster up here at around 120. And, you know, after that, it's pretty much all-time high back in the cards, but I'm not really looking at that right now, just because we're playing level to level, which is what I've been discussing on each video. The bank heist analogy, get in, get out. So a pretty simple analogy of that is we start flipping this level down here at 112k, we can look for that rotation up, roughly a 3.5% move up into these highs. That's just a range play. You can take profit there. Now, if we get above that and start accepting above that level too, then you can enter a position again, just on the same sort of scenario I was seeing down here with the deviation of the lows and the reclaim. Get that deviation of lows, we get the reclaim. You can then take another long for another 4% move up into that 120k cluster. So this is all I'm doing right now, just trading level to level. If we start really trending and breaking above all-time high, that's where I'm happy to hold swings longer. But in terms of like spot swings and stuff, I'm just looking to build them at key levels. So, you know, MNT is something I've been building spot in, and I'm just going to give the example quickly of why that is a nice chart to look at. If we go to MNT on the daily, actually we'll go to MNT on the weekly, because I'm feeling frisky today. We can see here, this previous all-time high down at $1.50, $1.51, give or take. You can see the amount of respect for this level. We've not closed below it. Every time we wick into it, it's bought up. So I've been buying spot and retests of that level. Been discussing that in the Mars High Club too, if anyone wants to join. So, you know, pretty much looking at that. I'm also looking at the anchored VWAP in this. So I'm just looking for that same bracketing scenario in MNT. And I didn't really mean to cover MNT in this video, but I'm just doing it anyway. I actually anchored the VWAP from down at roughly, where was it? 55 cents, which is the Pico low before the push up. Nice retest there at around 0.68 for pushing up. Once again, this was bought up quite aggressively on this wick here. So I'm just using these two levels right now as pretty much where I'm looking to trade. So I've just anchored the top one from this high swing point where we enter the range. And I'm just sort of looking for the same thing like with BTC, just bracketing between these 2 points. Now, every time we come down and test around this level, I'm just looking to pick up more and more spot because this level has so much respect on the weekly. And you can use this for any altcoin. I'm just using MNT as an example. So much respect on that weekly level, that previous all-time high. Each time it comes into it, it's bought up. My invalidation is quite simple. I'll keep buying this level, and if price starts to actually accept below it and close below it, then I can cut the trade for not much of a haircut because it's such a defined level. So enough on that. Gold. We were discussing in the last video, well, I was talking to the camera, but we were discussing, as in me and myself in my head to you guys, that this daily demand needed to hold here for a push and upside. So if we start to lose that, I think gold is, entering more of a downtrend. I don't know how low it goes, but this is kind of the level it needs to hold right now. Now it did have a nice bounce out, it's sort of consolidating there. And I was looking for potentially, if we lost that level, that weakness into BTC. Now, what I was discussing with you guys was the potential of if we swept those 106K equal lows, that would potentially line up with some sort of push back on gold where gold starts to sell off. So we did indeed get that sweep. It's pushing up. Now we have a look at the gold chart. It actually doesn't look too bad on the daily, right? So on the 4 hour, it looks a lot weaker. Why is that? Because the 4 hour trend, the 4 hour money noodle, has been phenomenally respected all the way from down at 3,300. Even further back, this is just where it flipped bearish here, but it's just ranging. But since it flipped 3,300, every single retest has been a buy. Every single retest has been bullish on the way up. This is why this indicator is so powerful, such a good strategy to use in line with price action and whatnot. But every retest is good. Now you can see we finally lost it, and now we're retesting it bearishly. So this to me is where I start to look, okay, maybe we're shifting on the H4 into a bearish trending regime here. So while it still needs to hold this, daily demand level around here, potentially we come down and we just chop in this for a while. Now when we go to the BTC and gold ratio chart, which is something I discussed in the last video, you can see the difference of how strong it looks compared to gold. Now we can see on the weekly here, if I just get rid of the noodle for a second, we can see what I was discussing last time was that weekly low sweep. Now that weekly low is swept, we've had a fairly decent reaction so far. You can see this nice blue/green candle printing. It's just blue on my chart. But if we go to the 4 hour, it's a very bullish looking setup. Like if this was a generic altcoin that I just found in the market, this would be a textbook long setup for me. We basically had an H4 divergence print down into this level. You can see that here marked out in the last video. So this little red line down here, very clean and sharp H4 div. We rejected off the 4 hour noodle. We pushed above it and we've come down and we've done basically this support resistance flip. So we've retested that resistance, that market structure break level as support in line with the noodle. And this is one of my favorite reversal setups. This is one I try to take every time because it usually lines up with catching the reversal early, and you can just add and compound to that on riding the trend up. So the H4 looks very strong here, and this is why I think potentially we might get some sort of rotation into BTC where it does the catch-up play. Here's hoping, because it's just crime season out there at the moment. We saw CZ get pardoned by Trump overnight. I've seen a whole bunch of scams going on with different companies, people front-running, listings, people front-running news. There's, a whole bunch of stuff. It's just pure crime season, which is nothing new to me being crypto since 2017, but I'm just seeing a whole lot of it at the moment, and it's just, just no shame. People aren't even trying to hide it anymore. It's just so blatant. So anyway, we need we need to push up like this on BTC. We need a really nice organic pump to restore some faith in the market, because it's just feeling pretty crimey at the moment. All right, so that's what we're looking for. I just want to see that level hold. That was the level I marked out in the last video, and we did get the wick below, and we're just holding it. So it's looking very strong here in line with trend. ETH I'm not going to cover too much because it's not doing much, but look, it's just holding that weekly level. It's holding that 4K level. It's holding that weekly demand. It's holding the weekly noodle as well. All we want to see is the weekly just close above here. This might chop for a while. If we look at the ETH BTC chart, it's not looking nearly as good as BTC, right? ETH isn't, and we can see that on the ETH BTC ratio chart. Now, what I said last video is we kind of wanted to hold this level here. We are just downtrending, right? So if I can get rid of this for a sec, this doesn't look great to me for ETH. And this is the reason I don't think alts are going to really have their time in the sun until we start flipping this level up here at around 0.038 on the ratio chart. We are just downtrending now. We are under the daily noodle. Every time we push into it, we're rejecting. So we really need to get above that. And hey, presto, if we get above that, it lines up with flipping this key structural level here. So that's what I'm looking for. Once we get above there, I've got alerts here. Once we start accepting above here, like a few candles above, people can't push price down. ETH looks much more constructive than BTC. I think we see a lot of altcoins start printing some good numbers. So, pretty much what I'm watching for now. Just a quick few alts before I sign off. But what I am lacking, so I'm lacking Sol. I'm lacking Sol from a breakout perspective. I'm going to get rid of the trend here. So we have these equal lows down here. I was either looking for a sweep of that at 172, or I was looking for this diagonal breakout to occur at around 192. Now the reason I was looking for that is if we go to the H1, on the M15, sorry, is what I meant to say, you can see the compression we're having between these two levels. So price is just getting compressed between that diagonal and the M15 noodle. M15 noodle's been pretty respected, apart from this deviation, which was quickly reclaimed. This is generally a textbook breakout setup for me. You can generally sort of enter a bit early, maybe like 33% of a position. You take your next 33% installment once we get it closed through that level, and then you take your next 33% installment on a retest if you get it. But yeah, so a position I took, quite happy with this one. I think Sol can push up from here. And it's looking pretty decent. MNT obviously talked about the spot side. Yield basis is a new one, but something I am quite interested in. So this is another one I posted in the group last night. Just anchoring the VWAP from the listing candle. You can see the respect on the way down, so it has this bearish retest of it here. It's going to get rid of the noodle again. And what I was looking for was on the H2 chart, was basically just to push above this pivot level down here at 0.48. And basically get above this anchored VWAP. Now we're starting to accept above the anchored VWAP, so this looks quite constructive here. Put in a nice bottom, put in a fat divergence down there. I was pretty much looking for a rejection here down into the 0.42 level, which it didn't give, or I was looking for a breakout above, which it did give. So this is a nice looking chart right now. I don't really have a target for it, but you know, it's a new listing. New listings have been doing well lately. Kind of the only thing being worth trading really lately is new listings, just because you get in and out, the bank heist thing, you get your pump, you take your money and run. So yield basis worth watching for continuation on this. Hype obviously got listed on Robinhood yesterday, which gave it a nice push up. And from a ranging perspective, all I was looking for was, you know, this deviation of the lows was good. We had a nice retest of the lows for pushing up. We broke out of the diagonal on that push. Actually meant to be on the 4 hour here. And all I was saying in the group to the Mars High Club was I was looking for, I think I posted it last night when it was about here, missed the initial breakout, but I was saying if we get above the range EQ, the 50% level of the range, we're just looking for consolidation up there. And now you can see all these wicks below it are failing to close below. So this is looking quite strong. This is another position I'm in currently. So pretty simple one. Like I think, you know, if we can hold above this EQ, which we're obviously doing, pretty easy to target $46 as the range higher there. Oh, sorry, my bad. 43.6, I should say. Looks pretty good. And if we can actually break above that level and start consolidating up there, I think you just go for the obvious target of the $50 round psychological number. Anyway, let's wrap it up there because I have to go move house. It is the weekend. Maybe get a scammy pump weekend based on this chart here. I really hope so. You know, BTC is looking pretty constructive. Do need to flip that 112K level. And we looked at those anchored VWAPs before, which I've now removed, but we know where they are between 106 and 113K. So yeah, not much else to cover. Please like and subscribe to the video. This one's a bit long. Sorry about that, but I'll be set up in the new place for the next video and I will catch you then. Be well, look after yourselves, and we'll chat soon. Cheers.